Hello, and welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
This is the podcast about murders and so much more. We will talk about anything strange, anything that goes bump in the night, and pretty much anything that amuses us.
And on that note, we need to mention that this podcast is not safe for work or delicate ears, so do be discerning who you listen to it with.
We also want to let you know that you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so look for us there.
I am Shannon Lawrence. I am a writer, mom, wife, student, procrastinator, and you can find me at thewarriormuse.com.
My name is MB Partlow. I am a writer, an avid reader, an organizer extraordinaire, a mom to kids, cats, and a dog, and I call bullshit when I see it. I think we should just start every episode with a burst of laughter.
We do that quite a bit. I just edited it out, so I'm just going to create us a laugh track.
We can sell it and be rich.
No, but I mean, sure.
Don't take away my dreams.
All right. I'm sorry. So, we had a guest last time, so now we have to remember how to, I don't know why I said remember. We don't know how to start a show. Okay. The sun is shining brightly in this office.
Yes, very. I should have a sun hat.
Just to be in my office.
If I was a vampire, I would be dead.
It's true. That garlic I slipped you earlier would have done the job, though.
Ooh, Thing 2 made her own hot sauce with habanero, but it's got a lot of garlic. It's got raw garlic and roasted garlic. It's really good, but it is too hot for me to eat very much of.
Wow.
But it's got a lot of great flavor in the beginning. It's not until after you swallow that you go, my mouth is on fire. No, it's not quite that hot, but it's still pretty sassy.
I watched a show recently and they were going places and they tried hot peppers at some place, but she gave them honey instead of milk afterwards.
Oh.
To quell the burning.
I like
so
honey.
That was interesting. I haven't tried it, but now you can try it.
I will, because I'm not a big milk person.
Yay! I taught a new thing today.
I learned something new.
I don't like milk either. All right, so what have you read?
Oh, okay. So I have read things, and I wrote them down. So I read the last two Jim Butcher books in the Harry Dresden series, Peace Talks and Battleground.
Okay.
It was really funny because when I got to the end of I think Peace Talks is the first book of the last two. I was kind of aggravated because it's just an extended, it's like a 300-page setup for the next book. It's hard to...
right.
Yeah, so it's not... Don't get me wrong, it was good, but it felt like the meat of the story was in the second book.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. There was some things in it I did not like, but that's because I can't say anything because I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Oh.
But if anyone has read those two books, there's a certain thing I would love to talk about, and if you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Those are always fun.
And finally, I read Invasive. I didn't double check the title, so I hope the hell that's what it's called, by Chuck Wendig. It came out a few years ago.
Okay.
And I've been avoiding it because it's about ants.
Oh.
And I have a thing about ants. And not only is it about ants, and not only is it a horror novel / thriller about ants, the fucking publisher put little tiny ants in the binding of the book,
awesome.
Printed. They're printed on different, not every page, but you're flipping along and all of a sudden you see them in the margins, and it was a very good book though.
I just like the ants thing.
If you can get around the ants, it's very good. But for years I didn't read it because I was like, no. And I knew there were going to be ants.
You should have read it on a picnic, sitting on the ground, surrounded by real ants. And then you wouldn't know if it was a real ant in the book or not. And that would be awesome.
No.
Fine.
What about you? What have you read?
I read The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. It was good.
The Night Sister. Okay.
Yeah.
What's it about?
It spans a couple time zones, or time frames. And it's, in the beginning, you have this woman named Amy, and something is coming for her family, and she's going upstairs with a shotgun, and then you jump, and this guy who knew her as a kid is the police officer who responds to her having murdered her whole family, apparently.
Whoa.
So, and then you jump back to when she's a kid, and you jump back to when her mom is a kid. So it jumps around because her mom had a sister, and they had a German grandmother who came out to visit, and she's telling them about this type of creature that can change into anything, and it's bad. And so Rose is Amy's mom, and Rose is convinced that her sister is one of these creatures.
Oh.
And so you're kind of tracking this through, and Rose's sister disappeared at some point. And anyway, and she wasn't around when Amy was a little girl. So it's well done, and you're getting, 3 different stories simultaneously.
Nice.
Because you're getting the sisters, and then you're getting Amy's story, and then you're getting Amy as a daughter who survives. And that's not a spoiler because it's right at the beginning. It's probably in the on the cover. And so her childhood friends are trying to figure out what's going on because they don't believe that she would have killed her family.
Right.
So yeah, it's a bit of a creature book, but mostly it's this kind of historical thriller.
That sounds good.
It's fascinating. So I don't even remember how I got it. Like, I don't think I bought it. I think that I don't know. It's a hardcover, but it doesn't have a cheap sticker on it like I get, because often the hardcovers I buy are from Barnes & Noble when they're on discount.
Right.
So I don't remember even how I get it. Like, somebody gave it to me, I think. And I'm glad. I just picked it off the shelf and read it.
That sounds soothing after bioengineered killer ants.
Soothing, no. But interesting.
Soothing for a certain type of person.
That's right. It was a lot more soothing than some things I read, sure. All right, well, you watched.
I watched a movie.
Good for you!
It's a couple of years old. That means it's between 2 and 15 years old. It was called Wanderlust. And it's Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd. I talked to you about it. I haven't talked on the podcast about it, but I talked to you about it. You and Patrick, I think.
Yes.
Because if any of you watch Friends, you know that Paul Rudd played Phoebe's boyfriend, fiance, husband on Friends. So I was like, why is Rachel with Phoebe's husband? So Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston are married, and there's all this upheaval and losing. They buy this expensive apartment, and then they have to sell it because they can't afford it because they both lose their jobs or quit their jobs in the same day. And they're driving. I'm trying to remember where they're driving to. I think his brother's house. They're going to stay with his brother for a while. And this brother is the biggest asshole in the world. But on the way there, they break down and they stay at a commune for a night. And the people are like, oh, come back anytime. This is what we're like here, blah, blah, blah. So they just run from the brother's house. They spend like one night at the brother's house and they run back to the commune. And it's about what happens to him there. And this woman comes on, one of the women who's very beautiful, comes on to Paul Rudd and is like, let's do this. And he was like, oh, fuck, no. Totally freaked out by the idea. So then somebody says something to Jennifer Aniston. So the two of them have this talk and she's like, well, honey, if you want to do it, then I guess that's what we should do if we're going to stay here. So then story progresses and it turns out she took advantage of that before he did. Because she's like, you said you wanted me to. But there's a scene where he's trying to psych himself up to have sex with this woman. And he's talking to himself in the mirror. Oh my God, it is the funniest thing in the history of filmmaking. It was so cringeworthy. I can't believe he just said that. I actually pulled I was watching on the couch. I pulled the blanket over my head in embarrassment for him. So it's cute. It's not going to change anybody's life, but it was cute. It had, some...
I need to rewatch it. I haven't watched it since it came out.
Yeah. So, but that one scene is just... I laughed so hard. Oh, no.
So, Oh,
And
before I say what I watched, we got to go try new food.
Oh, we did. I forgot about that place.
Yes. What was
I'm going to write it down.
It was Mika's Pierogies.
Mika's or Nika's?
Mika. That part I remember. I just remember the rest of her of the title. I think it was. But anyway, yeah, so we got a sampler. You tried more of them than I did. I couldn't have, what is it? Things like sauerkraut are migraine triggers. And so I didn't try 3 of her flavors because the other one had feta. But I tried the Ruskies, which honestly, I liked the Ruskies the best of all of it.
Which one was that?
That was just the potato and cheese. It's the traditional pierogi.
They were delicious.
Really good. And that just, whatever way she was cooking the dough around it. Oh my God, that was good.
The dessert ones were amazing.
Yes, berry. You can get berry pierogies there. But there was also, so I had like a hot wing type flavor. So it was chicken with the hot sauce and then a barbecue flavor. And they were both good. But I really liked the potato and cheese ones the best.
I would agree. I had the ones I had that you didn't. I had the sauerkraut one. And it was not my favorite sauerkraut I've ever had.
Okay.
It was bad, but just... one of them was a Reuben, which didn't taste like much. It just wasn't... but then I did like the Greek one because it had spinach and feta.
Yeah.
That one was quite tasty.
So, really good.
That was really good.
They're very friendly.
And they are very, very nice. And we went to
Atmosphere
these places together.
Gastropub.
And that was amazing.
We went with a certain Patrick Hester, who was a fantasy author.
Yes.
Well, fantasy and sci-fi.
Yes.
So, up in Denver, we got to get together with friends.
I know.
A friend.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But yeah, definitely recommend both of those. You had the Brussels sprouts, which are absolutely heavenly there, which is a weird thing to say, but it's true.
They are life-changing.
Yeah.
It's these roasted, really deeply roasted Brussels sprouts. I like them. And they're seasoned. I don't know what they're seasoned with, but they're so good. Then there's some crumbled sausage in there. And then they have 2 over easy eggs on the top.
And somehow those eggs make it so perfect because I'm not even supposed to eat eggs, but I'll eat them there on top of Brussels sprouts.
Except they give you about 14 pounds of Brussels sprouts. It's a lot.
Yeah, my pasta was a lot.
It was a lot of Brussels sprouts. I was like, I'm not going to finish these.
Well, so when my husband and I went there before, we got like 3 things and shared them. So
that makes sense.
But you guys don't like sharing. There. You guys each got your own meal.
Yes, we did. I do like sharing, but I was just like, I wanted to stick my whole head into that bowl of Brussels sprouts.
It's so nice to be able to go out places again and stick your head in Brussels sprouts. Mm-hmm. All right, so what did I watch? I watched, and we kind of talked about this, but the TV show Shrill, and it's got Adie Bryant in it. I don't know if that's the correct way to say her name, but she's a Saturday Night Live regular. In fact, she's on it still now because I saw one posted with her in it. I don't know. Saturday Night Live, I'll watch occasionally, but it's not great. Of all the sketch shows, it's probably the least good, but it's also the longest running. So
it's hit or
who
miss.
am I to say, right?
It depends who's on and who's writing. And
yeah, but it's really good. I don't know why it's called Shrill because she's really not shrill. And at the beginning of it, so she's overweight, and this show is about her kind of taking charge of that. And by taking charge of that, I'm not saying she's trying to lose weight or control it. She's understanding that this is who she is, and she's empowering herself little bit by little bit because she takes a lot of guff. You know, she takes a lot of abuse. She lets people walk over her at the beginning. You see her character grow. I think there's 2 seasons on, I think it was Hulu, and she continues growing through it all, and it shows her dealing with her mom, who was always you can have 5 M&Ms. You know, you can't have any more. And it for me, I could see it from different angles because I've been the mom who's dealing with that situation. And it's really hard to walk that fine line. And I remember posting and asking friends, like, I do not want to make my child have an eating disorder or this negative identity because of all this. So tell me what your parents did wrong and what they did right, like what was helpful. But it's a hard line for parents to walk because moms to walk. I'm just going to be frank on that.
That's
because
true.
the entire world judges you based on your children, and it's your fault if there's anything that's not okay with them.
Yeah, you have fucked them up. It doesn't matter which way it goes.
Yeah. It's your fault.
Yeah. And it's not, and I don't know why the dads are absolved. They never get judged in this.
No, they don't. So, yeah. So the show meant a few things to me because I've been to the super skinny and I've been overweight and I've been pregnant and looked like I ate myself, as I told you. Not an attractive pregnant woman ever. So it's a good thing I only had 2.
I was always an angry pregnant woman. I was like, I'm large and I'm coming through. Get the fuck out of my way.
See, I was a cheerful pregnant woman because we had been through years and years of trying to conceive, and then finally ended up being told, you have a 30% chance with IVF and it's your only chance. So, like, you skip right over the IUI, which is basically the turkey baster method. They said 0% chance there. And so, but here's the thing about that is if I was ever not feeling good or ever cranky, what I got was a bunch of people throwing in my face, you should be happy to be pregnant. So you shouldn't be cranky or you shouldn't complain about such and such. And it was just all the time. Like, yeah, you should be happy to be feeling miserable and like your guts are about to rip out of your body because your belly is sticking out 5 feet from where it's actually supposed to be. You should be happy about it.
Should be happy your ankles are swollen.
I continued getting that as a mom too once they were born. That did not change. I was lucky to have a kid, so I shouldn't complain about such and such. And really, I'm not a big complainer, so I wasn't even complaining when they were doing that shit. I would say, like, how are you feeling? Oh, the tendons on the side of my belly are aching, but I'm feeling pretty good other than that. Well, you shouldn't complain because, and it's like, people suck. I try and catch myself and make sure I don't do that to people because I hate that. Because they'll do it about all kinds of things, not just pregnancy, but it's, well, you should be happy about this.
Oh, you can't complain because at least you got fill in the blank.
Yeah. I got a lot of, when somebody lost a parent, if I said anything about parents, it was, at least you have said parent. And I was like, yes, but I have very real issues right now. Why can't I talk about it? I guess I'm not allowed to talk about it. A lot of stuff I'm just not allowed to talk about.
Well, you can always talk to me about it.
That's true. You won't say at least you have.
No. And if I do.
I did do that recently about something. So I fully admit it. So I have to correct myself. But yeah, anyway, it's a really good show. Well, there's comedy. Her boyfriend is the biggest doofus ever in the world. But he's sweet, but he's dumb, but he's...
that's a sitcom trope I hate.
I do as
Smart women with idiot men.
Yeah. And that's why we almost weren't going to watch the new Kevin James. Because it's like, sure.
Yeah.
We liked his show before, whatever it is, but we're so tired of men being, well, the guy has to be stupid for it to be funny. They don't have to be stupid for it to be funny. I mean, I didn't watch it, but Seinfeld, he wasn't stupid, right? So it doesn't have to be. But yeah, it's always some beautiful, gorgeous woman with some dopey schlub of a man who's a bit of an idiot, right? That is the trope. I'm over that. But I felt like it was done differently because he's not a main character. It's not like the spouse. But yeah, it's still there.
I'll have to check that one out. Because I do like her. I like her as an actress.
Yeah. I had times where I was like, do I believe she really knows how to act? I'm not sure. Because there are those moments. But I think it's just the way she talks is so distinctive that eventually I was like, well, maybe that is the character. And then I watched the movie Nobody, which has Bob Odenkirk in it.
How was that?
Oh my God, it's so good.
Is it?
Yeah. So I thought it was going, speaking of tropes, I thought it was going a very particular direction. And so he's this dad and his son kind of thinks he's a loser because he was in the military, but he never actually served overseas or anything. He just had a job here. And so, but grandpa saw real action. And so he's doing a report for, that type of thing. And I was like, okay, well, I suspect there's more to him than... I hadn't actually seen the preview. We just started it.
Okay.
And so we had no idea. So I don't even know what it shows in the previews. But I was like, okay, this is going to be one of those things, and it turns out that he's more than meets the eye, and yada, yada, yada. And they pretty quickly get into that, but then it goes beyond it, and I was delighted.
Oh, good.
So, like, it wasn't just what I thought it was going to be. And when he decides he's done playing the schlub, he's done playing the schlub, and it's good. It's a fairly violent movie. I'm going to say that, but there's comedic elements to it, and it's good.
Ooh, I will check that one out as well.
Do it. I also watched, so you've seen this one because I made you watch it. The Sweetest Thing. I have to watch that one a few times a year.
Oh my God,
yes. It's so good. It's Christina Applegate and Cameron Diaz and Selma Blair. And then one night, because I heard Jeff was watching it, because he'll put on a movie before he goes to bed, because he can fall asleep to anything. So he'll just put on a movie, and then he'll pass out, and it times out eventually.
Yeah.
I can recognize the sound of that film just from like filters downstairs from behind a closed door while I'm watching something, and like totally know exactly what's happening in that scene. It's absolutely ridiculously good. I love it. I may have already mentioned it on the show. I don't know, but I rewatched it again the other day because I could.
Why not?
There's a whole song. This should tell you if you like it or not. There's a whole song that they sing in a Chinese restaurant, and eventually a dance number starts because of it, and it's called It's Too Big to Fit in Here. And it is sexual. So now you know if you want to watch that movie or not.
It was very funny.
Oh, it's so good and inappropriate.
What else did we watch? We watched that and something else. Wasn't that when Charisse came over?
Yeah, we watched, I don't remember what else we watched though. It was another kind of classic one that we wanted you to watch, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because then we talked about with her, she wanted you to watch like some of the Brat Pack movies that you had.
Yeah, the John Hughes movies.
I see, but I disagree because I think, sorry, Charisse, I'm arguing with you. I argued with you about it already in person. Charisse is a local writer too and a friend of ours, but I don't think an adult watching those for the first time would like them, like somebody who saw them when they first came out and when they were around that age. I was pretty little when they...
I saw Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Love that. But
I think if you see it for the first time now, you're just going to be able to focus on the terrible inappropriateness that is, say, 16 Candles.
What's the one? Is that the one where it's her birthday?
Yes.
And see, I've seen the beginning of that, and I was like, oh, I need to go back and watch that movie someday.
You might not like it. I loved it because I wasn't even 16 when I saw it. Right. So.
Well, I can kind of remember what it was like to be 16 and awkward.
No, it's not that. It's that even if I go back and watch it, and I have, again, this built-in fondness for it, because I watched these John Hughes movies over and over whenever they were on TV or whatever back then. But, questionable racism with Long Duck Dong.
Yeah.
Terrible misogyny. Like, it's just terribly inappropriate now.
Yeah. The 80s were full of that.
Yes. And that's one thing when you're in the 80s and young. And it's another thing when you're watching a bunch of, 30-year-olds. Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall were the only ones who were actually young in any of those movies, who were actually the ages they were supposed to be. Everybody else was 30. Okay, probably 20-something, but slight exaggeration. Okay, and one more thing. I found a fun website, or a fun Facebook page.
You were going to...
And it's just called Vintage Weird. And I've shared some of them, but it's just somebody who pulls out these great old photos, and it's weird shit.
Why am I not following this? I must.
Perhaps you will be now.
I do get the weird secondhand finds that just need to be shared.
Yeah. I was on that page, and then I posted something, and nobody responded, and I was like, fuck you all. And so.
Oh.
I guess you have to be part of their club.
I don't know. I've never posted. I just look at the stuff.
Because they'll just ignore you like they did me. Rat bastards.
Okay.
I have some anger toward them. No, they popped up on my feed for the first time in a long time the other day, and I was like, yep, that's interesting. I'm not even going to like it. Fuck you.
And Zillow gone wild. Oh, I rarely like things. I just look at them and...
I try to like things if it's a page that I want to see. Mm-hmm. Also, for the Love of Old Houses, I like the house if I've looked through it so that I know when I'm in a mood and just start scrolling through their page.
Yes.
So that I'm like, oh, I already looked at this house. Because sometimes you don't remember you looked at this house.
No. Or it's like, hey, I haven't seen these in a long time.
All right, so I'm going first.
You are going first.
Okay. I am going to do, so we missed because it was during our break. So it was like May 5th is a day of recognition for murdered and missing indigenous women. And that's MMIW if you ever see it. And it's what you see when there's the red handprint over the face, over the mouth. It's been kind of extended to be MMIW G2, and that is missing and murdered indigenous women, girls, and two spirits. And for people who don't know, that's a native term for, say, somebody who is trans. I actually really love that term for it, but I'm not trans and I don't get to have that opinion, but two spirit, just, it's a very lovely way to say it. Okay, so because we missed it, I did want to still cover some of it, and I will probably be doing some additional kind of parts to it in the future, because I covered America, but Canada has a very big problem as well, and I'd like to cover that. And I would also like to talk about men, because they are still also very high numbers for both police brutality and overall death rates, comparatively to other races. So my sources: Talk Murder with Me. I like that. True Case Files, Smoke Signals podcast. We natives are nothing if not creative in using terms over and over. The Charlie Project and UIHI.org. So first I wanted to give a little data. And this is from a document that I got sucked into and spent way too long, and I read the entire thing. On Friday night, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, a snapshot of data from 71 urban cities in the United States by the Urban Indian Health Institute. And the reason there is an Urban Indian Health Institute is that, and this number is down here somewhere, I believe, 71% of American Indian and Alaska Natives live in urban areas. They don't live on reservations. But there is a huge assumption that that's just where natives are. In the U.S., at least. It's like, if you're talking natives, they're not that human who lives up the street from you. It's that person who fits all the stereotypes and is on a reservation. So that's why they wanted to cover this, because in the news, and I'll have a stat about this in a bit, it's always reservation crimes that make it. And it's always whichever ones that can be blown up to be as unsavory as possible. We'll say
sensational.
Yes. So this is a quote, because I figured instead of just pulling this out, I should just freaking read the quote. The National Crime Information Center reports that in 2016, there were 5,712 reports of missing American Indian and Alaska Native women and girls, though the U.S. Department of Justice's Federal Missing Persons Database, NamUs, only logged 116 cases out of over 5,000. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention has reported that murder is the third leading cause of death among American Indian and Alaska Native women, and that rates of violence on reservations can be up to 10 times higher than the national average. However, no research has been done on rates of such violence among American Indian and Alaska Native women living in urban areas, despite the fact that, again, 71% of American Indian and Alaska Natives live in urban areas. The states with the highest number of cases are as follows: New Mexico, 78. Washington, 71. Arizona, 54. Alaska, 52. Montana, 41. California, 40. Nebraska, 33. Utah, 24. Minnesota, 20. And Oklahoma, surprisingly low for considering the native population, 18. Denver was on there, but I think their number was like 8. But Denver was one of the urban areas studied. Reasons for misclassifications. This is important because the reason that they're not being reported on all of these things is that typically natives are misclassified in terms of race. Why is that? Oh, people who have said it to me. Because we don't all look like you think we should. Okay, so reasons for misclassifications. Individual not being obviously visually native, so they're classified as white or other. So tribes that weren't federally recognized during the time that a crime happened, because it does happen. They get declassified. They fight to get reclassified. It's happening all over the U.S. all the time. They get the white classification because they're not federally recognized tribe. Changes in systems that classified victims with a letter. So one of the huge ones they got back, and I don't remember what state, it might have been Washington State, is they sent and ended up sending 2 different reports when they were sent the FOIA requests. And when asked why they were different, and yet so many the same, they said, we realized that this was classified At first, they were classifying in during a certain period as it stood for Negro instead of Native, and then it became Native. And so when they did the search in their system under in,
gotcha.
But then they wrote back to him and said, okay, but most of the names are the same that you sent us in each report. And they're like, oh, well, then they must have been biracial. And that was as far with this report, they had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
A lot of people did not respond to the FOIA request, a lot of police departments and other organizations. And you're not supposed to be allowed to not respond to a FOIA request. And the ones that did, some were they listed some that were so helpful and went above and beyond and looked up more data for them to make sense of what they were sending. Some spent the bare minimum. But anyway, you could read in the report the frustration that was coming across. So there will never be a fully accurate count. Again, biracial victims are problematic. There are people, it's a weird part of the stereotype is people seem to forget that there's biracial in ways that are not just white and Native. I myself have had quite a few friends who were, for example, Black and Native. So it happens. So if somebody who, say, outwardly looks more Black, then that's how they get classified. Mm-hmm. So then it's not going to be in the system that this person was also Native, even if they were registered or tribally enrolled. Natives who adopted Hispanic names in colonial times. There's a whole period, see it a lot with Southwestern, is they have what comes across as a Hispanic name is what the police department had written back. I don't know why they couldn't be more accurate. They were like, they have these names and this is how they were classified when they died a lot of the time. Because they're brown. And so whatever brown got counted as. And cities that don't have any sort of category for Native or indigenous, so just either classify them as white or other. Because even though they are indigenous to this country, they are not important enough to factor. So, more than 95% of the cases in the study were never reported on even once by the media. 95% of them. Those covered were mostly ones involving reservations, like I said earlier. The problem with this is it leads to further stereotyping and further showing Americans that Natives really are just people who live on reservations. And if you're not on a reservation, then you're not Native. News coverage also used a significant amount of victim blaming. They misgendered trans women in these reports because there were several trans women who were involved in these. And they made reservations out to be, like we said earlier, very violent, terrible places. It's basically the Wild West on every reservation here. Just for the record, the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma does well enough that they actually support the local infrastructure in the white communities around them. They have built hospitals for the white communities around them. So not everybody's a charity case. Mm-hmm. And even the stories they covered were, blipped once and then not ever followed up on. So, getting into the story, I'm going to talk about two different cases because it is murdered and missing. One of them is missing. One of them is known murdered. Okay. On August 18th, 2012, 28-year-old Heather Cameron and her ex-boyfriend Daniel Lusby were in Shasta County, California, heading for the Keswick Dam. And I did look it up. The Keswick Dam is a large gravity dam with turbines, so it's a big one. Because when they said dam at first in my head, I don't know, I thought of a little dam, And it's a few miles from Redding, California. The area is forested. It's out in the middle of nowhere. You hike down trails and stuff like that in that area. At around 2:50 p.m. on August 18th, Heather called the police from Lusby's cell phone. She told them she had been drugged with heroin and was in trouble. They could hear a man's voice in the background. She said she was on foot fleeing and that she needed help. A gun was mentioned. The problem is she was in this outdoor treed area, so it was very spotty connection, and the call kept dropping.
Right.
So they were trying to grab whatever they could from her because they needed to figure out it's a very large area. And actually, the Cascades come into play in part of it. Another mountain range comes into play. It's a open area. She called twice more and asking for help. Much of what she said couldn't be understood, and they couldn't figure out exactly where she was. She did say she was on a dirt road and that she was heading in the direction of the dam. At some point on one of the third call, she mentioned there was a creek, so kind of narrowing this down. Police did descend on the area And it was multiple departments, types of probably sheriffs and whatever local was. But they could find no sign of Heather other than they found her EBT card. And relatives, once they were consulted, which didn't happen, by the way, for months, said she kept that in her bra. She would keep her EBT card in her bra. And so
What's an EBT card?
Oh, I think it's like, isn't it the, like not food stamps? Is it something like that?
I don't know.
Well, that's my theory.
Okay.
But they didn't find any signs of violence. They didn't find blood. They didn't, there was nothing left behind, but her EBT card was there. Now, could it have fallen out of her bra? Yeah. But I've walked around with credit cards in my bra, and I am not that boobaless, and they never fell out. So anyway, they do find Lusby later. They are able to question him, and he just says that she'd taken his phone and run off with it. He says he doesn't have it. He doesn't know where she is. He wasn't able to find her. And in fact, that phone has never been used again. It died. They can't track it, so it's wherever she is. Her family reported that both that Heather did have trouble with substance abuse issues and that Lusby was abusive and had an extensive criminal background. Heather had told her husband, she was married, they were separated. It's kind of complicated. She had told her husband that if anything happened to her, it would be Lusby. This was during a rough time of PTSD spurred by postpartum depression, and she had never had substance abuse problems before. Now, her parents did when she was a child, but she had not. And then this would have been her 4th child.
Oh.
And she got really bad postpartum depression, and it triggered these issues that she had from her childhood, I guess. And she started using drugs. She started hanging out with a bunch of people and using, just not being home. So he had all the kids, including her son, from a different father. He and she had 3 children together. At the time of her disappearance, the oldest was 4.
Oh.
The oldest little girl. And the youngest was 1. So she would disappear. She would do drugs with these people. But she did. She said she kind of was dating this Lusby guy during the time. So she and her husband were separated. And she said, if I ever turn up dead, he did it. Because he was violent to her all the time. And when she went on this trip with him, she was from Grand Rounds, Oregon, which is why it caught my attention, because that's where I got married. A couple of my cousins are enrolled members of that tribe. We're not blood related, so that is not mine. But it is a confederated tribe, which means that there are confederated reservation. There are, I believe, 5 tribes that are a part of it.
Oh, okay.
And it's out toward the ocean, out toward the beaches in Oregon, but it's in a rural area that you get to before them. So anyway, even though she disappeared in California, what they're trying to do with these reports is keep them for where they are from, because they're hoping if somebody from a sovereign country or from somewhere else dies in the U.S. or disappears, it gets reported back to their country, to their sovereign area. We do not do that with indigenous people, even though they're a sovereign nation. So they've put her under Oregon for this. Anyway, when she went out there, she had just checked herself out of rehab. It was her 2nd time in there. Her husband had come and visited her with the kids for her birthday. And she just turned, what was it that I said, 28. And she checked herself out a couple days later and disappeared with this guy. So he did say that she would never have she would never have actually abandoned her children.
Mm-hmm.
So she wouldn't just run away and never come back. But when she didn't come home and they hadn't heard anything 2 weeks later about her disappearance, her husband called her in to report her missing. That's when they found out that she was missing. Like that they had gotten these phone calls. Nobody ever contacted her family for more information on her disappearance. So how hard were they investigating?
Yeah.
If nobody that knew her heard from them. So anyway, I did listen to the Smoke Signals podcast about her disappearance, which is where I got most of her background stuff, because there just wasn't much information on her or anything I was finding. So he said that she was very sweet, very smart. At one point, she wanted to be an attorney. She always put her children first. Police have questioned Lusby, the boyfriend she was with when she disappeared, multiple times. They still consider him the primary person of interest in her disappearance. It's not often that they say that. They are outright have stated he is the primary person, but there's no proof she disappeared. There's nothing to show that anything happened. And so they're stuck. Heather was a member of the Federated Tribes of Grand Rounds in Oregon, like I said. Her family members are as well, and they believe she was a victim of domestic violence, that he killed her. She was initially misclassified as white in the reports, and she still is in the California Missing Person Clearinghouse. However, because of her family, she's being counted in the Oregon, like I mentioned. And that was in a report, the Oregon Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Report, that was put out this year, which is where I got most of the information. And it's put out by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Oregon in response to the 2019 Justice Department's Operation Lady Justice that exists to track MMIWG2. Along with Heather, there were 8 murdered and 11 missing Indigenous people for Oregon, though it doesn't say how far back that report goes. A lot of them they couldn't find past the 90s for some, 40s for some, because it was too far back and they had paper records or whatever. If anyone has information about Heather's disappearance, they can call the Shasta County Sheriff's Department at 530-245-6025, and I'll post that. There is a $5,000 reward out for information leading to a solution to her disappearance. Her family members have been incredibly frustrated with the Grand Round Reservation because that community refused to step up and help with efforts to find her until just recently, and then they started getting involved, but she's been missing for a long time. In addition to the Operation Lady Justice, Secretary Deb Haaland has formed a special unit under the Bureau of Indian Affairs to investigate cases like Heather's, and far more funding has been designated. Also, Oregon is one of the recipients of a Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Coordinator, along with 10 other states that have higher Native populations. Another woman prevalent in MMIW news is Savannah LaFontaine Graywind. She was 22 years old, a member of the Spirit Lake Sioux tribe, pregnant and living with her family until she and her boyfriend could move into an apartment together. The couple living in the apartment above Savannah's family were in frequent legal trouble and had loud ruckus fights all the time. The police were called on them all the time. So that couple was 38-year-old Brooke Cruz and 32-year-old William Hone, who had split up briefly after Hone got in trouble for assaulting Cruz and shoving her into a bathtub. So at that point, it was ordered that they have no contact with her, but he later moved back in. Between them, they had 9 children with various partners, but it doesn't appear any of those kids lived with them during this time because I could find no mention of the children being there in any of the articles. It seemed like these two were separate. It said that he was always in trouble because he wasn't paying his child support, and I doubt she was either. So, but he had actually had legal trouble because of it. In January 2017, Cruz lied to Hone on another breakup fight that they were having, and she said she was pregnant because she thought it would keep him from leaving her. Oh. When he found out she lied, he told her she better come up with a baby or he'd leave her for good. On August 19th, 2017, on a balmy North Dakota day, Savannah ordered a pizza and texted her family that she would be helping the neighbor, Brooke Cruz, who had asked Savannah to bottle a dress Cruz had made. The pizza arrived right before she'd agreed to go up to the other apartment, so she set it on the counter and went up, probably intending to eat it as soon as she was done. So she obviously didn't plan on being up there a long time. Hours later, Savannah's mother returned home to find the cold pizza on the counter, Savannah's purse in the apartment, and her car in the driveway. And no Savannah. Now, she wasn't responding to any texts from either her mother or her boyfriend, and that was very unusual for her. She was usually prompt in responding to everybody. Her mother, Norberta, went up to apartment 5 where she was told Savannah had left at 2:45 p.m., and at this time it was 4 p.m. when she was told that. The thing is, Savannah was 8 months pregnant. She was this teeny tiny little 22-year-old girl. She was miserable. It said she'd been, her feet were swollen and she just didn't feel good. We know how that feels. Yes. And it was in the 80s outside. So her mother said there is no way in hell her daughter had walked somewhere. Yeah. And her car was fine. So yeah. She reported her daughter missing at 4:30 p.m. to the Fargo Police Department. Police arrived and they searched apartment 5 because that was the last place she'd been known, last place she'd been seen. They searched it that day and the next for a total of 3 searches. They found no evidence that led them to believe anything had happened to Savannah there. But when Savannah still hadn't returned, police went to Hone's roofing job and questioned his co-workers who mentioned he had a new baby, of which they also had seen no sign of when they searched the apartment. All right. There had been no evidence of a baby, right?
Right.
3 times the police went through there. Police were able to get a warrant to search apartment 5 again, this time finding a brand new baby girl in the apartment. Both Cruz and Hone were arrested immediately. Hone while still at work. So they got Cruz and the baby girl, took the baby girl, and then they went right to work and arrested him. 3 days later, kayakers on the Red River of the North, usually just called the Red, saw something strange caught on a log floating in the water. As they came alongside it, they found a body wrapped in plastic and duct taped, and it turned out to be Savannah. When Cruz pled guilty to conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and lying to the police on December 11th, 2017, she told the full story of what she had done. When Savannah arrived in her apartment, Cruz picked a fight with her. Cruz then shoved Savannah, who fell and hit her head on the sink. Cruz grabbed a knife from the kitchen and cut the baby girl out of Savannah while Savannah was still drifting in and out of consciousness due to the head injury and blood loss. When Home came home, Cruz asked him to help her finish. So basically, he said that he walked in, she was cleaning up blood. There's a baby girl there. And Cruz says, I don't know if she's dead yet. Just help me finish this. So he goes and he grabs a rope. And he ties it around her throat and he finishes strangling Savannah with it. They put her body in the bathroom closet and cleaned up the blood. When police conducted their searches, Savannah's body was still in the bathroom closet. And the baby was simply hidden under the blankets in the couple's bed. Brand new baby. They don't make a lot of noise. How well did they search that apartment?
Yeah. I mean,
given at that time they weren't suspects. They were just, you're the last person to see her.
And at that point, they weren't looking for a baby. So I can understand not looking under the blankets on the bed, but a fucking closet and you don't even open it?
Yeah. So after the last fruitless search, the couple had then put Savannah's body in a dresser that they'd pulled the drawers out of, drove to the river and dumped the dresser and body off the bridge. So somehow Savannah's body came out of the dresser, obviously, because the reports didn't say if they ever found the dresser itself. February 2nd, 2018, Brooke Cruz was sentenced to life in prison, no chance of parole. September 4th, 2018, Hone pled guilty to conspiracy to commit kidnapping and lying to police, but not guilty to conspiracy to commit murder. One of Cruz's fellow inmates, that's the woman, has stated that Cruz was actually the one that strangled Savannah, even though she stated that Hone did not know of her plans in advance, but that he did strangle Savannah in the end.
Right.
Either way, the autopsy was unable to determine if Savannah was still alive when she was strangled. So they don't know if the blood loss killed her or if it was the strangling. So at this time, after being sentenced to life, then having that sentence overturned, Hone has been resentenced to 20 years. So, and Cruz was very clear that she hadn't told him what she was going to do. But he did, in fact, go in on the kidnapping at the very least.
Right.
And Cruz said that he went in there with that rope and then came out and said, I don't know if she was dead or not, but she is now. So who knows? Little Hazley Jo is alive and healthy and she lives with her dad. So that is a happy ending. That's little baby girl. They gave her to her dad right away. He is also a member of the same, Spirit Lake Sioux. So the reason I wanted to tell her story is because her murder is the reason for the introduction of Savannah's Act. And it's a bill passed by the Senate and signed into law by Donald Trump on October 10th, 2020, that is intended to improve tribal access to federal crime information databases and create standardized protocols for responding to cases of missing and murdered Native American women. What they find over and over and over again is if it's a crime involving Native Americans, it doesn't get investigated much. It gets blown off. It's a lot of that attitude of, they always have problems. So what's another one? They're all alcoholics anyway. They're all yada, yada, yada. So that's what I wanted to cover, those two women.
Wow. Did you read the book? Oh, it's got The Flower Moon.
Oh, yeah,
I remember the full title.
I don't have it yet. I do have it, though. But I haven't read it.
That was really good. Not exactly the same topic, but overlaps.
I think that aren't they making a movie or a miniseries off of it?
They very well might be.
I think so.
But that was, if somebody wanted to, because that's a nonfiction book and it's just.
Or maybe it's documentary. But
that could be.
yeah, something's made up. I haven't yet, but you did say it was really good. So
I thought it was. I found it very impactful. How could you just ignore? Well, I was reading today. Did you lend me the book Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered?
Yes.
I finished it today.
Oh.
Because I've been picking it up here and there. But one of the things they talked about was victim blaming.
Yes.
And how there was something going on. I can't even remember what city it was in. And so it was in Canada. It was in there was somebody killing women in some ritzy area in one of the Canadian cities. Can't remember which one. And the first thing somebody came out and said was, well, ladies, you need to not be on the bus at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And they were like, really? This has been all over the news, and you think the women who are on the bus at 1 a.m. are there because they have a choice?
Right.
Are there because...
They may be on their way back from a job, and even if they're back from being out with friends, they have the right to be.
Yes. And then somebody else suggested, it never was enacted, but some council member enacted a law, suggested that they set a curfew for women.
Well, so that document, was it the Yorkshire Ripper? I talked about it with Nikki. I think it was the Yorkshire Ripper. It was the same thing. I mean, what they were doing is then they put, all right, women, you have to be home by 10. So let's let every single woman change her entire life around this. And if you have a job, you don't get the luxury of being home by whatever time is dictated to you.
Yeah, or you've got a job that's nowhere near where you live.
Right.
And you have a long commute, or you can't afford a car, or you don't know how to drive, or...
And I've said it before, because this is always, it's the go-to. All right, women, here's what you can do to keep safe.
Yes.
And I get it. It's valid. It's valid to be telling women how they can protect themselves, too. Because the police can't be everywhere at once, and they can't stop everybody who's doing all the things all the time. But at the same time, it then turns around and it sounds very much like, all right, women, you need to change everything because there is one male individual out there who's going to town killing a bunch of women.
And if you don't follow our rules and he gets you, then that's kind of your fault.
Yeah. How about we put men under a mandatory, you must be home at this time because you're the ones killing people.
Why didn't they say, and that was the point they made in the book, why didn't they set a curfew for blonde men between the ages of 25 and 40?
Right. That's way more specific than, all right, all women everywhere. Yeah, it's always very frustrating. And I get that there's no perfect answer, but it's still, the onus is always on women. Women don't dress inappropriately. Girls in school don't dress in a way that would be totally comfortable and is okay for males because you're going to distract the males, even though, let's see, lesbians aren't distracted in the same way. So apparently whose fault is it not?
Yeah, I never understood that.
Nope. So
I mean, when I was in school, granted, it was a very small rural area and there wasn't a lot of dress code. I don't even remember anybody mentioning the word dress code, but everybody kind of, nobody had a lot of money. It was mostly just jeans and t-shirts anyway. Sometimes you wore a dress if you were a girl, but so I don't understand the double standard. And it's rampant right now in all of our high schools. And here's what really pisses me off. You take two girls, say they're both 5'6". Say one girl weighs 110 pounds. Say the other girl weighs 200 pounds. The girl who weighs 200 pounds is going to get stopped every fucking time, even if she's wearing...
Because of her tank top or whatever.
Yes.
Spaghetti straps.
Identical outfits. Mm-hmm. She's going to get stopped because she's got more skin showing.
Right. Which, in the law of nature, is just how that's going to work out.
And it's like, I'm sorry, I have boobs.
Oh, what was that movie I recommended to you on one of our previous episodes? Oh no, because it was the name of the newsletter. And it showed that though. It showed that you've got this one girl and the other girl sticks up for her when she gets called out for it. And she's like, I'm wearing the same kind of top she is. Mm-hmm. So I was waiting for it. I was prepared for it because one of the big things I saw when I went to my daughter's middle school to take her to her locker that first time is they had the dress code right up there on the wall.
Oh.
When I went in. And of course, what is it? It's all about what girls can and can't wear.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a couple rules for boys, but that's
and
it.
They can't wear hats.
It's not, like, don't wear hats.
And that goes for everybody.
Don't wear, I think that they had a no tank top type rule or no wife beater, for the guys. But that's it. They're not being policed nearly to the same level. And apparently they're the ones who are problematic. So,
yeah.
But I was like, so my daughter is on the tiny side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the only pants that she can wear that are comfortable are leggings, because no matter what kind of jeans we get her, she's very tall and very skinny. Mm-hmm. And we have to cinch them to the point that it's miserable for her to wear them. Like a belt.
Yeah.
Even with her, the pants, if they're long enough for her, have always been, so they're all rolled up, And so leggings it is. And I'm sorry, there aren't that many tunics out there. They're like, okay, then you have to wear a tunic or whatever.
No, you can only get tunics if you're a size, 24.
Hell, I look for them all the time because I like leggings, and I can't freaking,
mm-hmm.
I just want something to cover my ass so I can go. So I don't understand why it's so hard.
I don't either.
But so what we did for a while is we just saved her dresses because she'd grow out of her dresses lengthwise, but they were still big enough that she could wear them for a t-shirt. And so that's a lot of what she did was wear dresses over leggings once the dressing. It's often a cute look, but it's often an awkward look. I mean, there's only so much we can do. But nothing ever happened with it so far. Now she's going to high school. And I'm like, all right, I already had 3 years waiting for that fight. Here's 4 more. Just waiting for the fight. Because I fought it when I was a teen. So, and in 6th grade, I went to the principal and did an article about it that they refused to publish because I went at her pretty hard about, I don't understand why my shorts have to be a certain length, but the boys don't.
Yeah.
Because I, like my daughter, was incredibly tall, all leg, a freaking colt. Mm-hmm. I was that clumsy too, really. And so I couldn't wear shorts is what it boiled down to. I could not wear the clothing because it did not meet the limitations on me. And so that was very frustrating to me. And I asked her, well, then why aren't the boys required to, because even then they were giving the excuse, well, we don't want to distract little boys during school, do we? And I was like, I have many other ways to distract boys during school. And it has nothing to do with my complete lack of sexuality at this age. So now that we've ranted about that, but it is frustrating. And even more so when you have daughters and you have to deal with that coming at them.
And
I'm sorry that I am bustier than other people. I should still get to wear the same clothes.
We had an incident where a teacher said something that deeply hurt my daughter. And so I wrote to him, and I can write a pissy letter. I did not write a pissy letter. I wrote a very forthright letter, and I said, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you said X, Y, and Z, and that really hurt Nikki. So what did that, pardon my French, pussy do? He took the letter to the principal and had the principal call me to talk about it. He didn't make any attempt to contact me, nor would he...
Or say, apologize to Nikki.
Yeah, he wouldn't go, oh... I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I said was so awful for you. I didn't mean, no, none of that. And I said something to the principal about, so what are you telling me here? Well, I've known him since we went to high school here together. And I said, oh, okay, I get it now. It's the little boys club. Yep. And you're going to take his word over her word or mine. So we can be done now because it doesn't matter what I say. You've already decided he doesn't need to apologize. Whether he did it on purpose or not was never the question. I don't think he was out to hurt her.
But he did.
But the fact that he did, wouldn't apologize it, and he's going to hide behind you. All right, we're done. And I'm so proud of the fact that Nikki, at her high school graduation, she would not shake the superintendent's hand.
Good.
He held out his hand and she was like, no, I don't like you. I don't trust you. And I don't like what you've done to this district. Don't know where she gets it from.
No. So strange.
I know. It's like
from such humble beginnings.
We found her under a cabbage. We found her under a cabbage leaf. Okay.
All right, this is going to lighten things up a little bit.
Turn this bus around. So the last week we talked about Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And so talking about the South got me to thinking. So I'm calling this, what the hell, Waffle House? And my sources, I didn't list them last week. I'm not kidding you. You can't, the abundance of these stories is embarrassing. I got it from the New York Daily News, the Daily Mail, CNN, the Springfield newspaper, businessinsider.com, the Waffle House website, the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, I got a little background. I wanted to be able to, I wanted to give you the full picture of Waffle House before I launched into the fucking mayhem that just
is a Waffle House.
And you would think, okay, so if I'm trying to research something and it was like a shooting at a nightclub, and I type in nightclub shooting, you'll get one or two. Mm-hmm. If you type in shooting at Waffle House, it's like Google says, bitch, what state?
Hold my digital beer.
Here, yes. So I'm going to go all the way back to Waffle House was started by two Georgia neighbors, Joe Rogers Sr. and Tom Forkner. They wanted a 24-hour sit-down restaurant for their friends and neighbors, and apparently the big focus was to put as much care on the people on both sides of the counter. So you care for the people who work for you as well as the people coming in to eat.
It's good in theory.
And I'm like, what kind of neighbors did you have that needed a 24-hour restaurant?
Maybe like farmers were getting up at 3 a.m.
So perhaps there are 1,900 plus locations in 25 states. It's been called a beloved icon of the South, which it is. You think of the South, you think of Waffle House. And God damn it, after researching this, if I don't want waffles.
Dude, well,
it really doesn't take much.
They reopened the Waffle House over here, all refurbished and stuff right on the way.
Have they?
Yep. We can go there for a meeting. You can sit there as long as you want. Nobody cares.
That's true.
Can I throw in, when I was doing my clinicals for my CNA, mm-hmm. a group of us were getting together at Waffle House before we had to get there early. I don't remember. It was like 6 a.m. or something.
Ugh.
And so if you're going to eat at Waffle House, scrubs, the absolute best clothing to wear to eat at a Waffle House. My God, they're so comfortable.
Good to know.
Sorry.
I'm like, where the hell was I? The Wall Street Journal reported that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard of this. I had actually heard of this, has an unofficial Waffle House metric to determine the effect of a storm and the amount of assistance likely needed for recovery afterward. The index is based on the reputation of Waffle House for having good disaster preparedness and staying open during extreme weather or reopening quickly afterwards. So it's a thing, if you pull up to Waffle House, there's a level green, you pull up and the full menu is available. Level orange is like you pull up and
you can have some eggs and toast.
It's limited menu items, and it's like level red is Waffle House is closed. Because it's like Waffle House never fucking closes. Mm-hmm. So apparently,
they're like, we got generators.
Yeah. So I'm trying to decide if I want to go from the old. I think I'll go from the oldest to the newest. Okay. So I'm going to go back to, and this is not going back to the beginning of Waffle House. This is just a sampling from the 2000s.
This is a minute sampling.
Tiny.
Waffle House.
So 2007, this one was in Georgia. Kid Rock made headlines for beating up a man in a Waffle House.
I actually think I remember that.
Yeah, the man said he had approached a woman who was part of the group who was with Kid Rock, and Kid Rock claimed he only verbally assaulted the man. Although he was arrested an hour later, and he was sentenced to 1 year probation and paid a $40,000 fine.
Wow.
So that's kind of, and then people just decided if you're going to lose your shit, go to Waffle House.
Yeah.
In 2011, August 2011, Panama City Beach, Florida. Charles O'Brien, hell of a guy, drove his 1987 Ford pickup truck through the Waffle House building trying to run over his wife, who was working there as a waitress. He did, in fact, manage to hit her, She was not seriously injured. He then got out of the truck with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the patrons picked up a piece of something that fell off the ceiling and whacked him with it and protected the woman. So
nice.
And other patrons intervened until the police could arrive. What the fuck? I mean, everyone you can at least kind of relate to the fantasy of, I'm going to run that motherfucker down.
Oh, yeah.
But I would never think, and I'm going to drive into a building to do it.
I'm going to drive into that yonder Waffle House so that I can...
That other patrons are in. People. Yeah. Okay. Here's a good one. November 2011. Georgia.
Isn't that the home of Waffle House? Did you say that?
I did.
Okay.
2 Georgia neighbors.
Because I've had people very proudly declare that to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I'm like, good for you.
So in Georgia, 4 senior citizens are arrested for plotting to attempt a mass poisoning and overthrow the government. They didn't have enough money to do it. The 4 men wanted to follow the outline of a novel from a frequent Fox News guest, Mike Vanderbo. I don't know. It's Vanderboogie. One reportedly said he was recorded saying, "When it comes time to saving the Constitution, that means some people have got to die."
What? Okay.
Yeah. So they apparently had the means and the recipe to make ricin gas.
Oh, ricin.
Ricin.
Okay. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
And they wanted to purchase botulism, but that was expensive. They also wanted to obtain explosive devices, and their plan was to poison Washington, D.C. and Atlanta.
I mean, they could have just kind of gotten the anarchist cookbook and made some stuff themselves.
But I'm like, who? Yeah. So if you're going to plot an overthrow, don't do it at the Waffle House, because those bitches will turn your ass in. Good.
They'll be like, would you like some more coffee? And what was that you were saying just a second ago?
So, January 2012. You will appreciate this one. A customer complained after waiting 25 minutes to be served. So the waitress hit her in the head with a coffee pot.
All right.
Tell me you've never wanted to do that.
I may have come close to doing it, actually, closer than I should have.
Yeah. So the customer was not seriously injured, but the police were called, of course. And the waitress did get in a bit of trouble because then they found pot in her apron.
Oh.
So, yeah, that just didn't make things any better. So, now, a lot of these are funny. Some of them are not. I normally stick to the mayhem and the raucous stuff, but
sometimes you gotta branch out.
Sometimes. And just fucking everything happens at Waffle House. I am scared to Google women giving birth at Waffle House because I'll just be horrified.
I feel like next time you should Google Denny's and then do all the Denny's ones.
I know, but Denny's just doesn't have the iconic oomph
that
Waffle House does. And I still call it Lenny's because I loved that ad campaign. It was the 2 old ladies. Let's go get some breakfast. I want to go to Lenny's. It's Denny's.
Yes.
I love that whole campaign. Okay, so anyway, May 2014. We're back in Georgia. 50-year-old Jeffrey Wooten uses a pitchfork to rob a Waffle House. So that kind of caught my eye. I was like, what? Really? So he used it to herd everyone into the back room. Then he grabbed the cash register and ran out the door. So on the way out, he dropped the pitchfork. 2 employees, who I believe had to be egregiously underpaid, chased him, grabbed the pitchfork, and were able to smash the window in his vehicle.
Pitchfork.
On his truck. So he flees, the cops chase him, he crashes. Here's the important part. He crashes his car during the police chase, but he fled on foot and got away. Later that same month, he was arrested and charged with murder and carjacking in Knoxville, Tennessee. Once again, he crashed his stolen car while fleeing from the police.
He's not a good driver.
No. He's no Rain Man. I'm a very good driver.
I'm a very good driver.
So anyway, the police caught him that time. And I don't even know if they charged him with the Georgia crime because it was like murder and carjacking, and murder takes precedence. So.
Yeah, should.
Oh, this was one of the first ones I came across. So in November 2015 in Mississippi, it's around 1 a.m. when a 52-year-old waitress named Julie asked a customer, Johnny Mount, to put out his cigarette. Because you can't smoke inside anymore. We all know that.
Yeah.
And it was 2015. I mean, this has been around for a long time. So instead, he pulled out a handgun and shot her in the head.
Oh.
Just...
And then probably kept on smoking.
He kept on smoking and he just sat there until the police arrived. He didn't try to leave. He didn't, however, in this instance, now I'm not saying this excuses what he did. It might explain it, but it doesn't excuse it. He had a 10-year, he was a 10-year veteran of the fire department. He was a firefighter, but he had been forced to retire after a car accident left him with a traumatic brain injury. So they suspect that was because that's exactly the kind of person you want to have a permit to carry a gun.
And he was a firefighter, so obviously it was just yeah. We can have that conversation. There's a lot to say there.
May 2015, Macon, Georgia. Emmanuel Williams, 36, a registered sex offender, was caught pleasuring himself. They had so much fun with all the different ways you can say that. Pleasuring himself by a coworker in front of a window at Waffle House. So the coworker, and it wasn't clear. Sometimes it sounded like it was a male. Sometimes it sounded like it was somebody who's female. But the coworker told him to stop or they would publish the footage because they got their phone out and were recording it because that's what we do now. And he apparently just said, I don't care. Go ahead.
If you're flagging it in front of people or flogging it in front of other people, you probably don't care if they post the video. It's not a good threat.
Yeah. So
you really got to think those through.
He did later, like within days, he turned himself into the police, where he was also charged with parole violations besides public indecency. And what was the word? I can't remember. It was some extreme public. I can't think of what word they used. And I was like, well, that's a little extreme. He was pulling his pud. He wasn't chopping people to bits.
Okay, well, I felt the whole thing with Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, was taken to the extreme.
Oh, my God, yes.
He was at a dirty movie.
Yep.
I just hated how they basically castrated him publicly for that.
Yep. He was dancing with himself.
That's right. Like every other man.
January 2016. Oh, this was a sad one.
Getting closer.
Oh, no, this wasn't this real sad. Well, this was an odd one. So they're all odd. This is mayhem. This is what I love. This is mayhem. I want to know everybody's story. How did you get here?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. How did you get here? January 2016, Atlanta. Jennifer Henderson, 37, was arrested after what was called a naked rampage at a Waffle House. She stripped off her clothes, punched a woman in the face and broke her nose, and threw several platters of food at other customers. She also damaged a window with one of the platters that she chucked. She fought back against the arresting officers, and that is just never a good idea.
No.
Never, ever, ever, ever is that a good idea. And she scratched one in his face in the process.
Assault and battery.
So, of course, assaulting an officer. So the official documents say that she was in a suspected excited delirium state.
Suspected?
Oh. Suspected excited delirium state.
All right.
I'm like, does that mean drugs?
I would like to be in an excited delirium state.
Really? I feel like I am half the time. But, yeah, I've never felt like climbing on the table at Waffle House and taking my clothes off was going to solve my problem.
No.
When I saw the head, never mind. After we're done, I'll tell you afterward. Remind me to come back to that. Because I'm like, no, I don't want to say that one on the air. It's just, and because it would just serve to prove how really stupid I can be sometimes. So, okay, so this is the sad one. September 2016, again in Georgia, which this time I've spelled Georgie because I got tired of writing it apparently.
Just
Rhiannon Gentry from Dade City, Florida. I feel it's important to note that even though this one takes place in Georgia, she was from Florida.
She was a Floridian.
She's a Floridian. She's 38 years old. She left her 2 children, ages 11 and 12, at a Waffle House. Along with another 12-year-old girl she was babysitting. Is that not your worst nightmare?
Oh, man.
So the children, she sent them in. She took them in and they got meals. And they didn't have enough money to pay for their meals. And the children were crying because they sat there for 90 minutes or more with mom being gone. And they don't have enough money to pay for their meal. And so a customer saw the kids trying to cross a busy street and stopped them and said, what's going on? What's the problem? Where's your mom? And they said, she is at Wild Wing Cafe. So they went. Mom was drinking with a couple of gentlemen she just met at Wild Wing Cafe. So the police were called and were waiting there with the kids when she came back. She claimed she'd only been gone for a few minutes and that she'd returned to Wild Wing Cafe to pay for drinks that she'd had earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. That's right. Nobody's going to be able to counter you. You idiot. There are human beings working at Waffle House.
And I'm like, okay, I it's one thing when you do something like that to your own child, but someone actually trusted you with their child and you abandoned them to
go hang out
at
with
a Waffle
some men.
House. Yeah. So, my favorite. I saved my favorite for last. This is November 2018. I mean, people are all the time trying to rob Waffle Houses and getting... Well, sometimes they get away with it. Sometimes they get shot. Because apparently a lot of the customers are armed.
I imagine anything that's 24 hours is going to be a common target because they've got to have money on the premises.
Yes.
There's always somebody to rob.
Yes. So, November 2018. This one's in Alabama. So, this is a throwback to last week. A man with no pants fell through the ceiling of a Waffle House during a botched robbery attempt. And apparently I could not get the video to load. Apparently somebody notices the ceiling starting to bulge downward and gets their phone out. And this dude just fucking falls out of the ceiling. So, 27-year-old Glenn Bost had gone to the bathroom and tied the door shut with his pants. He climbed into the ceiling because he was going to crawl across to the manager's office to rob them.
I see his plan now. At least there was a plan.
So he falls through the ceiling. Restaurant patrons tried to detain him, but he fought them off and fled, leaving behind his pants, which had his wallet and his driver's license.
Oh my God.
So he was not incredibly difficult to track down.
No.
It's like, why don't you just walk in and hand them your ID? Here's my driver's license. I'm going to rob you now.
Well, maybe he thought they couldn't get in there because it was tied closed with his pants.
But
and they'd never go in there again.
I'm like, so that you have to know there was not a lot of forethought to this plan. I'm going to go rob this place, but first I'll have to remove my pants as an integral part of the plan.
Rope is expensive. And,
really? And it just really makes me want to go to a Waffle House. I don't know why. I don't think the food is anything to write home about.
It's great for late at night when you've been out and you've had some drinks or you're just really hungry because you've been out. We always ended up going to a Denny's instead of Waffle House because I really didn't know Waffle House after we'd been out dancing or something, but you burned some calories.
Yeah. But nowadays, what do I do that I need food at 2:00 in the morning? I'm asleep.
Yeah.
Although the other night I went with Thing 2 to a comedy open mic night. Mm-hmm. And by the time we got out of there, it was creeping up on 10 o'clock and we looked at each other and went, oh, we should have ordered food. Mm-hmm. Because now we're both starving. So we're like, oh my God, where the hell do you eat in Colorado Springs after 10 p.m.?
Here's the thing. I could have actually easily answered that question before the pandemic. But once the pandemic started, everybody's hours got wonky. I no longer know who's open late for me.
So we stopped at Carefree Bar and Grill, which you and I love because they're open till midnight, but their kitchen closes at 10.
Oh.
I was like, oh my God, do you have anything back there we can eat? I'm like, really? And peanut butter and jelly. She's like, we have clam chowder. And I'm like, no, Nikki's not going to eat that. So, but I ran into somebody I used to know in there, and we were, and whose daughter was bartending. And so the four of us are sitting there talking. We're like, we're starving. And they're like, go to Old Chicago.
Yeah. Because we've even done that when I got off work, but that was still like 9:30.
But yeah, so it was, they were like, yep, we're back open. The kitchen's open. What do you want to eat? So I had wings. They weren't magical, but it made me stop wanting to bite my own arm and chew it. So
yeah.
But that's the latest I've been out in a very long time.
Wow.
And some of the oh my God, some of the comedians were really good. And it's hard because at an open mic night, they only get 3 minutes. So it's hard to get a flow going, and it's hard to see
you can't do callbacks, and you can't do stuff like that in 3 minutes.
There was one woman who got up there who was coked out of her mind and said so. And I'm like, oh baby, if you're super funny and you go on coked up, you might be able to carry it off, but you can't be coked up and then try to be funny. It doesn't work. She was just a hot mess. There was one guy who was, and there were a lot of dick jokes. It is still, stand-up comedy is still a sausage fest. It's still primarily. Yeah. So I was just like, and some of the dick jokes, I'm like, yawn. I've heard them all. You're not saying anything new. I said, you need an old lady like me in the audience because if you can make me laugh, then you've accomplished something. And there were some women who were good. There were some men who were good. So, and one guy apparently, he'd been going, because they have a writer's night on like Tuesday nights and then open mic on Wednesday. And so apparently this guy has been doing the writer's nights. He's been doing stand-up. He's been taking feedback. And the MC is just like, I'm really excited. This guy just gets better every time he comes out here. He's going to be, in our showcase competition, blah, blah, blah. Guy comes out, boom, bombs hugely. He starts with his new material and it doesn't go. And he just goes, oh fuck. I'm bombing. Thank you all. This is a very humbling experience because I can tell I was obviously getting too cocky. All right. So I was like, I admire your honesty.
We all need to be chopped off at the knees every little once in a while when we're getting too cocky.
So
I feel like that's been the last 2 years of my life, was chopping myself off at the knees.
But I heard there's an open mic night at Oscar Blues. Oh. It's either Sundays or Mondays. So I'm like, so a place I know I can get good food.
Yeah. They have really good cornbread. I forget what's in it. Is it like a green chili cornbread or something? Anyway, they bring it out in one of those little cast iron skillets. It's good. And it's like honey butter.
I will call you when we are going.
Do it!
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. They were doing like a, yoga and pints or something, which I'm always like, can I go there and get something else instead of beer? Because I really don't want to drink beer when doing yoga. That doesn't sound fun to me. I know it sounds fun to other people, and that's great, and more power to them. But yeah, they stopped doing it because, again, pandemic. Yes. But I had seen that at Oscar Blues, and I was like, maybe I could get myself, what time is it? What time are they doing this? If they're having pints with it, maybe it's later, because yoga's always
true.
Like
it's usually
6 a.m. or something.
It's usually 5. The yoga and pint stuff I've seen, it's usually at like 5 or 6, and it's not a hugely long yoga class. It's like 30, maybe 45 minutes, and then you get the pint after.
Okay. Yeah. Not drinking it during. No, you're not doing the tree with.
It's not like goat yoga where you get to do the yoga with the goats.
Yes,
I would do goat yoga. Yeah. I don't do yoga.
Although I saw one of those videos or something, and the lady, it's on her back, and it just pees just all over her back, and I was like, that's not fun. I don't like that.
No, I would not enjoy that. Speaking of animal pee, you watch the Try Guys. You know who they are. So you know how Eugene
Mm-hmm.
is very pretty.
Yes.
He's a very, very attractive individual. And he's you kind of get the impression he's not messy like the other guys are. Okay, put Eugene with a dog. He doesn't give a fuck. They did a thing where with the sled dogs, and he's on the ground, rolling around on the ground with all these dogs. And one of the guys is like, Eugene, there's dog pee here. And he's like, don't care, dogs. He's just so excited. And I'm like, now we've seen the inner side of Eugene.
There's Eugene when he relaxes.
Yes.
Because he really doesn't allow himself to relax like the other guys seem to.
No.
But yes, I saw that one. Yeah.
So see, this is how our conversations ping pong back and forth.
Hey, if you haven't watched, you can just go to YouTube and find Try Guys.
Try Guys dog sledding.
Yeah, but any of them.
Any of them are funny, but...
Yeah, I was trying to think of some of my favorite ones were when I first found it. You know, and then they were having to try harder and stretch and find more topics and stuff like that. So they weren't always the bestest, but like there's an episode where they all did drag, which was great. And once again, Eugene just looked like wonderful and he could just live that way. And I had a piece of movie trivia I was going to say, but see, I've forgotten it. And it actually didn't. It's because I edited 2 episodes in a row, both in which I had some movie trivia because it just sprang from something you said and it was what came up. And it was like, you can see this person's ass here and there's full frontal here. And I was like, I had trivia that was going to be interesting, but non-sexual and I don't remember it. Because I always look stuff up. It's not just sex things. In fact, those things, it was like, one was I was looking up Sam Elliott to see why he has the bend in his neck, right? And then, of course, there was trivia that had to do with his
Why does he
booty.
have the bend?
I don't know. That's the thing. I couldn't find anything on it. So anyway.
It's probably just a quirk.
But now that he's older, it's always like that. So
maybe his ear is very heavy.
He lives in some little town in Oregon near my aunt. And then somebody else, they were talking about them having a house in Oregon lately. And there's a lot of people in Oregon. Because I remember when I lived out there in McMinnville for a bit, supposedly Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell had a place or were renting a place in one of the little wine cities that's around there. There's a lot of wine cities out rural. But I was always like, well, maybe when I go through this town of 50 people, we'll see them. The odds are pretty good, except I don't ever stop in this town. I don't remember which one it was.
You couldn't have stopped to pee.
I mean, probably not. There was a Dairy Queen on the outskirts of the town. That's the kind of town I taught. Dundee. It might have been Dundee, Oregon. And I drove through it to get from McMinnville to Beaverton. So, yes.
I say, oh, yes, that's how I go.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That is the route I've always taken.
I like that route. It's very
I realized the other day, though, we're going out for my grandma's memorial, and that's pretty much, I won't be visiting all these places. We already had lost the ocean. I mean, we'll never lose the ocean. I'll go there anyway. But my grandmother's house there, and then my other grandparents built a house in Sisters, Oregon, on top of a mountain, and it's lovely up in the mountains there. But that was already gone, and so this was my final grandparent, and she lived out in Amity, in the rural area, and so I'll never have to There's never going to be a reason to go to Amity ever again. The other places I'll visit. Amity, not a place I'll probably visit. No offense. It's a little town. But, yeah. So it's gone. And this time we're not even going because that's not where we're going to go do memorializing.
Right.
So, never again.
So, if people want more information, or if they want to tell us their stories. Oh, we need our question.
Yeah.
Whoops, sorry.
Tell us questions. Tell us
this week's question. Oh, and we have answers because we discussed them in advance. It's like we talk.
Outside of this podcast, that's weird.
What movie scared you as a kid?
Oh, yeah. But I did it. Well, okay. So, for me, it was, I didn't have a movie, really, although I think Gremlins scared me because my mother was working at the theater, and it was there, and I just walked in there. I think it was just the green Gremlins. I loved the Mogwai, but I loved the movie Gremlins. I even had a lunchbox, one of those great metal ones that if I still had would be a major collector's piece with Gizmo on it. But anyway, I think that one scared me, but I don't actually have a memory of it. I just think my mom mentioned that. I ran out like, "Ah!" But then I insisted upon watching it over and over. But the TV show was The Incredible Hulk.
That's right.
Yes, and I loved the TV show, and it frustrated my mom to no end because I wanted to watch the TV show when it was on in the afternoon, and then at night, I would have nightmares that the Incredible Hulk was in my closet, and I had this, like, chest in there, or, you know, whatever container that my toys would get put away into at night, so it would shift frequently throughout the night, and then I would be like, my mom's like, don't watch it. And she tried, but then I was like, I really want to watch it. And then she felt bad. So then she let me watch, kind of like Bambi. I watched Bambi over and over and over every single day. I would tell her that the mom was going to live this time until she just disappeared that VHS tape. Because she couldn't handle it more. Because then I would cry every time.
Yep.
She's like, he's always going to die. It's the same movie over and over. But then it gave me a little insight because you know kids will watch things over and over and over again. Maybe they're watching it thinking the story's going to change at some point because they don't see it as a static thing.
Oh, I never thought of that.
I didn't either. That's my genius input for today. You're welcome. What about you?
The movie that scared me as a kid, there are two. One, I don't have any idea what the movie was, what the name of it was. It was just an image. Some guy had been burned, and then he shows up at the door, and the woman opens the front door, and there's this burned body standing there. And I was like, oh, fuck no.
That sounds like a Twilight Zone or a Monkey's Paw rendition.
We used to get, you'd get the matinee movies in the afternoon. You'd have the Saturday afternoon movie on TV, and it was a big deal. We only got 3 stations. I mean, there was no cable, so it wasn't like we had a whole lot of options. And let me tell you, Bugs Bunny came on at 4:00. I was there for that.
Yeah.
Every Saturday. But one afternoon, and I couldn't have been more than about 4, because we were in the living room, and I want to say my mom was ironing, or my sister was ironing, and fucking Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds came on.
Oh, yeah.
Don't want no birds in my house now. I just remember kind of not being able to look away. It was like, what's going to happen? I don't like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's killer birds. You see birds all the time. Well,
I wasn't super young, but I saw Jaws at the exact right moment in my life where I'm like, I don't need to go in the ocean.
That's right. We talked about that because I saw it for the first time when we were going to the ocean the next day with he was my boyfriend, but his dad was taking us to the ocean the next day. And we went over there and we're talking, it was probably like 5th grade, but he put on Jaws because he was a bit of a dick, really. And he thought he'd freak us out. And we also watched Tremors at one point over at his house because he was always trying to scare me. And I was like, listen. My grandma took me to horror movies all the time. She got in so much trouble when we walked out of an auditorium. We were supposed to be somewhere else. And at the theater my mom worked at. So she wanted to get caught. Don't tell me she didn't want to get caught.
Yeah.
And it was the cat people.
Ooh.
So don't try to scare me with Tremors and Jaws. So I was not scared. But I did, in fact, get chased by a shark at the beach the next day. And I screamed my fool head off. And it was a baby nurse shark.
As one does.
But it was chasing me. And I was also young.
And here's the thing. Where I grew up was nowhere near the ocean. So we swam in the river. Occasionally in a lake. But, free range water. I can't remember. Nikki had a name for it. But I can't remember what it was. But I was just like, that was the first time I ever stopped and went, what is in that water that I cannot see? Mm. Now, there had always been fish and leeches and turtles and fucking snapping turtles and snakes, and none of that bothered me. I knew on some level they were there.
It was normal though, because we were talking about leeches and stuff. And I didn't know until years later what we were pulling off of ourselves after going in the water were leeches. And at the same time, there were copperheads all the time. And we had eels in the lake, and we had giant snapping turtles, those behemoths at one end of this lake, and you just watch them come up, and they're like an island, and there's algae just growing off of them. They're like 2 billion years old. And
we didn't even call them leeches. We called them bloodsuckers. And some kid always had a salt shaker.
See, that's great. We didn't even plan ahead. We were just like,
yeah,
hey, we're going to go
just,
take a dip in the lake.
If we were swimming at the bend, that was where the bloodsuckers were. Somebody always, and it was never, I don't remember us ever talking about, okay, now, Johnny, tomorrow it's your turn to bring the salt. It just, somebody always had a salt. Because when you try to pull them off, they stretch.
Oh.
And when they snap, it is not fun.
See, I don't know. Mine they were just small and they were black. They were pretty small.
Like an inch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And skinny.
But they get really, really big.
Yeah, I luckily never had to see them big. Sounds like they stick to still water. If they were in a bend, for me, we swam at a dam. So it makes sense that they'd be there at that dam then, I guess.
But yep, you just sprinkle the salt, watch them curl up and fall off.
I mean, probably that would have been kind of fun then. Immoral childhood.
In the rural areas, you make your fun where you can.
We always had slugs in the garden in Oregon, and that was one.
Ew.
Like my mom was on the phone talking, and it was up on the wall using one of those classic with the big old cords, children. Cords. It had a cord that attached the phone to the wall.
Pigtail cord.
Yes, it's the one you see in all the movies where it's just that smooth. It has this little cradle. I'm showing it like you guys can see it. Like.
And if you were lucky, you had the super long cord. So you could
she
stretch
didn't.
it.
So I think she had like a chair she pulled over and she was sitting on the phone. And
there was no privacy when you made a phone call.
No. My little brother was about 2 or 18 months-ish because we moved right after that. Not long after that. So, and he comes in and she's trying to talk to him, Mama, I have something for you. And she's just like, just put it in my hand. And she reaches out her hand and then plop, there's something super slimy. And she looks and he had gored the slug. He'd put his thumb through it and picked it up like a plum, right? Like Georgie Porgy or whatever. God. And then he just went bloop and he plopped out her hand. And then she shrieked. I don't know who she was talking to, but lucky them. And that is how she learned, after him, there were 3 more. You don't just put out your hand and say, put it in my hand. No, not anymore.
Okay, so if people want to get in touch with us, if people want to tell us their stories that we can share, tell us their mysteries, their monsters, their mayhem.
Honestly, you've seen that. We define that pretty loosely. So all manner of stories you send to us, we will happily share.
Yeah.
And you can send that to mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com. And you can go to our website. We have our episodes there. We post our schedule ahead of time. So you have kind of a preview of what's coming, even though it's only the titles. Yeah. And hey, there's a bunch of pictures of us on there. You can go marvel at our oddities. So that's it.
We're adorable.
We're so cute.
Not God.
mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com. Yeah.
And of course, we're on Facebook.
Yes. But we said that at the beginning.
We did. I'm just reiterating it in case our brilliance has made someone
And we post our pictures now on Instagram instead of Facebook.
Yep.
So, all right. Thank you for listening. As always, please like, rate, follow.
Yes, and don't forget to tell us what movie scared you as a child. We will post that on the Facebook page.
That question will be there. It'll be there on when you're listening to this. Yes. We post it on Wednesday, probably about a half an hour after we post the show episode. So look there for it. We're also going to be posting some things on Mondays, some Fridays, sometimes just interactive stuff, so you guys can talk to each other and us.
Yes, check it out.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Bye.